Hi again, I'm Janice Wood. I'm Project Director with Capital Planning and Policy, and I have responsibility for the Warehouse Assessment Initiative. Thank you for attending the Q&A session as an introduction to the initiative and the data gathering meetings and site reviews that we have planned for all of you in the next few weeks. The warehouse assessment is a countywide project to evaluate physical records and material storage strategies to assist in the efficient utilization of our real estate assets. It's a follow-up to the county's real estate strategic alignment plan that was conducted about 10 years ago. And so this project ties into that evaluation of how our real estate is used. I'd like to introduce the other team members of the county's project team for this initiative, assisting us in the overall coordination. And they are for the Bureau of Administration, our partners with the Bureau of Asset Management in the initiative, Sarah Spivey and Chris Page, whom many of you know from your records management activities. And also with us are Anthony Delasio and Matt Garnery. They represent the STV CBRE program management team, and they assist capital planning in coordinating this assessment and analysis effort with us. I'd like to turn over the introductions to Chris Whitaker, principal consultant for Iron Mountain, who has been selected by the county to lead the warehouse assessment and evaluation efforts countywide. So you'll be working with Chris and his team over the course of the next few months as they gather information about your physical records and materials and help us evaluate the process of how that's managed and housed in the county. So thank you, and we'll turn it over to Chris.
Great, thanks, Janice. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, on behalf of Iron Mountain, I'd like to thank you all for not only the opportunity to partner with Cook County government on the assessment process, but also for your time today. My role in the project is essentially I'm the engagement lead, managing the relationship between Cook County and Iron Mountain. Joining me on the team are Christina Offit, as a consultant who's leading our efforts for some of the inventorying that will be completed at some of your sites. Also on the call today is Jake McKay, our project manager for the engagement. Two other people two other members are on the team are James Hardy and Kelly Huckman. They are also consultants whom you will see and interface with during some of our data collection sessions, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So again, we are very excited about this opportunity to work with you and your departments to find out what you all are doing with in terms of how you manage your physical records and materials and practices to go along with that. So as well. All right. So to that end, I'm sorry, Janice, did you?
Oh, I'd just like to encourage everyone to, if you have questions during the presentation, please raise your hand or put a question into the chat, and we would be glad to respond to you during the course of the presentation. So feel free to do that. And there'll also be a Q&A time at the end as well. Thank you.
All right. So thanks, Janice, again for the introduction and getting us kicked off. So in terms of the purpose of today's call is as a Q&A session is really to sort of go through the process around how we're doing the assessment to understand, again, the physical records and materials practices across Cook County departments. So really during today's session, I'll talk a little bit about the warehouse assessment goals and objectives. We'll talk about some of the project work streams. We'll talk about sort of how we'll partner and some of the items that will be needed for us to sort of get started and as well as next steps. And then of course, open up the floor for discussion and Q&A. As Janice mentioned, again, we'll have a Q&A at the end here, but also during the call, if you have if you have a question or if you see something you want to learn more about, please, feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat. So again, we look forward. Again, we want to make this an interactive discussion to ensure that we're answering your questions. We also just completed, or we're in the throes of completing this process with 3 pilot departments that we've been working with for a similar, for these similar tasks. We've taken a number of sort of ideas from that team to incorporate into this process that we'll utilize again for the assessment work that we'll be completing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the program goals and objectives overall in terms of the warehouse strategy. Again, so some of the goals of the warehouse assessment strategy include, helping the county maximize efficiency for real estate assets utilized. Start to, build a plan for the efficient storage of both records and materials. Improved management and tracking of those records and materials that are being stored. Increase compliance to Cook County's Records and Information Program and Local Records Act. And also, one of the goals is to hopefully have a reduction in unused records and materials inventory by identifying disposition strategies that could be utilized, especially for any, records or materials that have lived their useful life. There are essentially 2 project work streams that will sort of occur during the assessment process. The first is the program assessment, roadmap and program recommendations, and also creating an inventory of Cook County's physical records and materials. So to talk about the first item, the program assessment is really broken into sort of 2 components. The first component is a data collection process where we speak with you all in your different departments about your current records and materials, programs, and practices. So things like, how do you store your records and materials today? Where are they stored? How are they managed? Are you disposing of your records and materials per the preset retention policy, especially for the records? Understanding, how information is used not only within your particular department or office, but also how the information that you produce is utilized potentially by other county departments and offices. There will be, so after we complete the assessment work with not only you all as a group of departments and offices here, we'll be expanding out across the county to speak with other departments and offices to gather information about their current practices. Once we gather all of that information, we'll build a set of program recommendations, where we'll talk about, hey, based on what we learned, these are the recommendations, we feel Cook County might take to improve and enhance how records and materials are stored and managed today. And then with the inventory, we're going to collect information about both your records and materials, where you store them, the types of information, the types of materials and records that you store. We'll want to look at the physical space to understand how much space you have today, understand the dimensions of the space, the amount of items that you have and that you have under storage and management. Again, as an overall plan to help you and within your particular departments to have the right amount of space and to begin to start planning for potential needed space in the future. So I'll stop here. Any questions about the project scope and or work streams? All right, well, let's go ahead and move forward to the data collection sessions. So in terms of engagement, there will really be 2 items. So the first is what we're calling a data collection session. So this is the meeting that we'll set with each of your departments and offices to learn about your practices for records and materials management. So the sessions typically last about an hour and a half, and we have built into the schedule generally up to 2 meetings. During the pilot, our meetings lasted about, excuse me, with the pilot departments, our meetings lasted about an hour and a half, and we met with them on one occasion, and then there were a couple of follow-up emails and maybe phone calls just to validate information that we heard. But we think it would essentially be the same with working with your group as well. So along with the data collection session, or the meeting, which it will be held, which will be a Teams meeting, we'll also review a records and materials questionnaire, which will be provided about 2 weeks in advance for each of your departments to review and complete prior to the data collection session. We found during the uh, pilot process that the departments who completed, or with the departments completing their questionnaire prior to the session, made for a very, productive call to share information, and to review essentially what is going on in each of the departments. So again, our goal is to get that out to you so you would have plenty of time to review and complete it. And of course, during that time, if there are any questions about the about the questionnaire itself, we would of course make ourselves available to answer any questions about the completion of the questionnaire. And then the next piece is scheduling a location walkthrough and inventory of the records and materials. So about 1 to 2 weeks after, at least what we're scheduling, for our teams to come out and do the location walkthrough and inventory of your records and materials. So our lead, Christina Offit, will be reaching out to you all as leaders to look at, you know, reviewing calendars and, working through getting a schedule together to, come out and do do the walkthroughs and to meet with your department. So um, the length of the process and the meetings varies, of course, based on, the volume of records and materials that you would have in your locations. I would say on average during the pilot process, the meetings, the walkthrough and inventory sessions were anywhere from about 2 to 3 hours tops, something like that. Some were even shorter, again, based on the number of records that they have. So the goal is we'll be looking to get these scheduled within the next, the data collection sessions will be looking to start getting scheduled within about a week. And then with the inventory, with the on-site visits, we'll be looking to get those scheduled in about 2 weeks. So again, please look for us to contact you to start getting that set up. So the actual meetings won't occur until the May June timeframe, but we thought it was important with so many other dates and things out there to go ahead and start getting some of those meetings scheduled sooner versus later. All right. So I'll stop here. Again, any questions about either the data collection session or the location walkthrough and on-site visit? All right. So let's see. All right. So, okay. So talking about items needed from your departments and next steps. So really the main things we'll be looking for are, of course, as department leads and leadership to, help us drive participation for the project activities. We would also look and see or ask if you have any current retention schedules or policies in use. We've been working closely with the records management department with Chris Page, who has provided us some of the current retention schedules in use for your departments. But we also ask and see if there's any that potentially are in other policies or procedures that you may have within your department as well, to have those to be able to review. We would also look to have any current records and materials inventories or listings for items stored either in-house, meaning within Cook County locations, or at off-site providers. So if you use any, commercial storage places, or if you use any store-all type places where you keep some of these items, any information that you can provide of what you're doing for those, if we could get that sooner versus later, that's a great help as well. We would, again, yep, so identifying the location of where your records and materials are stored, again, either in-house or at off-site storage providers. And the other things, one of the other really important things that we need, are records and materials owners and or liaisons who are able to do two things. One, speak to the overall records and materials process and program. So this could be either someone at a sort of leadership level, or someone, or ideally could be a combination of someone at the leadership level, as well as the folks who manage the records and materials, day in, day out, or at least week in, week out. And then second, someone that we could work with to facilitate entry to locations for the on-site visits to do the records and materials review. So our Iron Mountain team, we have been assigned Cook County badges. So we do have the ability to come into the locations, and we're already badged. Of course, we would work with you all to go and visit any locations within your sites, but I did want to mention that as well. So, and then we're looking to, yes, at least schedule the data collection sessions around the sort of early to mid May timeframe, and then we'll look to schedule the on-site visits around the sort of early June through mostly through the month of June timeframe. So again, you'll hear from us within the next 1 to 2 weeks on getting both of these sessions, both of these items scheduled and getting them on the calendar. All right. So again, I'll stop here. Any questions around sort of what's being asked of you all as departments and department leaders, and any questions around next steps? Yeah, and actually this was my sort of last slide, so we can open up the floor for Q&A now if we'd like as well.
Hey, Chris, I would just add that if anyone can think of other team members in their department that should be attending the data collection sessions, just let Chris Whitaker and Janice Wood know with their name and email address.
Great point.
Chris, just let people know that there is a second component to this presentation today. Chris is going to be walking you through the questionnaire that you're going to be receiving, if we didn't mention that earlier. So this is a more process and schedule oriented time for the meeting. And then the questionnaire, he'll go through it in detail so that you know what to expect and might have a chance to begin gathering some of the materials that you'll be filling in when you receive your department specific questionnaire.
Great. Can everyone see? I'm sorry. I think someone was speaking. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Can you hear me? This is Debbie Furlong with the Bureau of Administration, the Executive Office. Chris Page, are there going to be other departments like facilities, medical examiner brought into this project?
Yeah, yes, this is countywide.
All right.
And actually medical examiner was already done in the pilot phase.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Also, for what it's worth, we did animal and rabies control and public defender during the pilot as well. Yep.
Great.
All right, good question. Great, can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. So to Janice's point, so this is a copy of the survey that we'll be utilizing for most of the departments within this group of departments and offices we'll speak with. The reason I say most is because the way that we have designed the survey is the survey is comprised of two elements. So at the top, as you can see here, where I'm kind of scrolling and sort of highlighting, this part of the survey has data for the specific department and how they responded during the July 2022 survey that was completed during that time. So for those departments who completed a survey, your survey will come to you created custom, kind of similar to this, actually just like this. The only difference would be there would be accurate, or excuse me, not accurate, but actual data that was utilized in the response from the department when they did the survey back in 2022. So this one, of course, has sample data, but we are adding this information just as kind of a reminder, and you can see sort of how the department responded to the various questions back in 2022. And then on the bottom portion, you'll see questions starting here, essentially on line 21, with the new survey questions that we've added for the 2025 survey, for this survey. And there are a host of new questions that we've added along different topics. First is around policies. The second set of questions are just questions around access to your records and materials, and then other general questions. And then there are questions around the location of your records. I might also note that this is also broken into two tabs. There's a tab for information to be collected about your records, and then there's a second tab with information to be collected around your materials, which I'll get to in a second. But on the record side, there are also questions around again, the location and where your records are stored, both whether they're stored in-house within your offices or other Cook County locations, or let's say that are outsourced to, let's say, commercial storage companies. And then there are also questions about sort of the inventory. Do you have a listing or an inventory of your records that you can that would be able to be produced? In questions around sort of retention, capturing, if you have any current records disposal certificates on file. Do you have any currently under any records disposal certificates under review? And really these questions are trying to get a sense of, if and how you're disposing of your records and information. So there's a couple of questions here, and then there's some additional retention questions about, the policy, how records are disposed of, and then also asking about sort of awareness around the general process for how to destroy records. So for those departments who did not complete a survey, which as I remember, and Christina, keep me honest, that there's one or two departments in the group that we're sort of embarking on this process with that did not complete a survey back in 2022. So essentially your survey will be a little bit shorter. It will basically start here with the 2025 questions. So again, just wanted to mention that as well. But again, the whole goal about sort of keeping or adding the initial questions for those folks who completed the 2022 survey, again, to give you an opportunity to see, how you scored then, again, how you responded, and then we'll be sort of comparing that against the 2025 responses as well. So that's the record side. And then on the material side,
Chris, I have a quick
sorry,
question
go
to
ahead.
clarify for
Yes.
the group.
Yep.
If the survey responses from 22 have changed, is there a place for the departments to update that question or that information? Or is it asked again as part of the 2025 questions?
It's asked again as a part of the 2025 questions. So what we did is we took the items that were here and we essentially put nearly all of these down toward the bottom, and I'll scroll down to show
Okay.
those. And those are located here. So the things around the more quantitative types of questions around, the number of records uh, uh, that you believe that have expired and can be destroyed. The number of records that that have been destroyed since the last survey, those types of questions, and those are all listed here together. The other questions the other questions are added into the access and general questions.
So in other words, the data from 2022 is provided as a reference.
Correct.
And the department has the opportunity to either repeat it, reference it, if it's still the same, or to change it. So it's really there as a tool for all of you to use and see, okay, how did we respond 3 years ago, and or do things look different today, or do we have additional locations where our records are and that we didn't mention then, things like that.
Yeah. Another piece to Janice's point is around disposal and destruction of records. Again, have any records been disposed of, in between, that tends to show sort of, moving the program forward, again, disposing those records, because that frees up space, also reduces some level of cost as well. So again, any information around that is key. So we want to definitely capture, again, that kind of quantitative kind of data and information as well. All right. Again, so before we move to the materials tab, any questions about sort of what we're reviewing here for the records portion of the questionnaire? All right, well, let's move to the materials portion. So fairly similarly designed here is, so for the materials, for those departments and offices that completed a survey back during the 2022 process, that data is going to be listed as at the top here. Again, much for at the top and then scrolling down here. So it's a little bit different than the records portion. For the top, because there were more, initially there were a larger, greater number of questions around the materials versus the records. So we again, for this process, we did add those questions and the responses more on the, under this column here, under column C. And the directions and sort of how this all reads, we also include in the email that we send out to each of your departments with your custom questionnaire. So, but again, the information and how you responded is listed here, is listed under this column. And then in the column next to it, column D, is the sort of correlating sort of column here, where we would like for you to respond with the 2025 responses, again, to understand what your program looks like today for materials in each of the sections. So again, access and general questions, questions around inventory, questions around, where your materials are stored, etc. So a little bit different look than the records tab, but again, the goal is to gather as much information around how you manage the record, how you're managing your materials today versus how your department um, responded to similar questions in the 2022 survey. Right. Again, when we send out your survey, your questionnaire, custom questionnaire, we'll have some, specific sort of bullet points listed in terms of how to complete the survey as well. And of course, we're all available as a team, as a joint project team, to answer any questions. All right. I'll open up the floor again. Any questions around the materials tab here to collect information about your materials? All right, so this is the questionnaire. So again, this will be coming out soon as well. We'll be sending a copy of this with the invites when we look to start scheduling your data collection session, as well as your on-site visits. So this will come, again, our goal is to get this to you about 2 weeks prior to your data collection session, to give you all plenty of time to review and get this completed. And of course, ask questions in between should you have any questions. All right.